John Cate, Vigilant Digital Security. You're pretty much the foremost digital forensics person for the defense in Middle Tennessee at this point. You are. But most people have no idea what that is. So, what is digital forensics? What do you do?
Digital forensics is the investigation of digital evidence. And it could be for law, it could be for corporate security. Basically, we are talking about digital artifacts, cell phones, photographs, social media, and how to gather and present that evidence so that it's verifiable and reliable in a setting like, for example, a defense attorney in a courtroom.
Well, I guess that's where I use it. You had your first case with me 6 years ago on a murder.
Mm-hmm.
How many criminal cases do you think you've actually had to take and handle and actually analyze the data on?
I'd guess maybe 86, 90, something like that.
You do civil stuff too, right?
A little bit of civil, mostly criminal.
All right. Well, and I first encountered it with cell phones. And cell phones kind of were the mystery that I didn't know was a mystery. If I, in the case one of mine, have a cell phone and I need to analyze, what kind of data do you usually get out of that?
Well, these days, a person's mobile phone has their whole life on it. So not just all your emails, not just all your text messages, not just all the selfies that you took and the different photographs, but a host of other information as well. Information about where you were and what you were doing, log files. And it's often a little bit more complicated than just as simple as here's a file and it always means this. Oftentimes you're building a map of connected artifacts that only tell a story when taken all together.
I've always heard that once something's deleted, it's not really gone. How true is that? Like if I go through and I just take my cell phone, take a picture, and then I delete the picture, how gone is that data?
Our favorite answer is it depends. But you should never assume that anything's been deleted. First of all, even if you actually do completely erase something from a file system, the way that modern mobile phones, for example, are set up, that is very likely to have been stored on a cloud somewhere or in a backup somewhere, and so the cloud complicates everything. That being said, a phone itself is also going to have a forensic extraction will very likely pull all kinds of deleted, and the systems that we have now are very advanced and they can carve data, so we're not just looking into organized databases and pulling out prepared files like you would with, for example, a Windows operating system or an iOS or Android device. Now we actually have sophisticated tools that are piecing together the path left behind by files that have been deleted and restoring those files.
What does carve mean? You said it carves data. I don't even know what that means.
So, without getting too technical, you can think of a lot of artifacts from something like a forensic extraction being divided into two categories: carved and parsed. Parsed is a file that is stored in a normal way, referenced in a SQLite database. We can go to that file, we can get that file, just like an operating system would go to that file. A carved file is pieces of a file, maybe a partial file, that something like an artifact hunter, for example, in a software application like Cellebrite or Magnet's Axiom, might go in and say, this collection of data here looks a lot like a JPEG. Mm-hmm. I wonder if it's a JPEG, and then pull information about that, and then sure enough, oh yes, it is a JPEG, and then what can we find about it? And you don't always get everything. You might carve a file that has a lot of good metadata in it. So where was it taken? Maybe something like the device that took that JPEG, or the person who took it, or the location where it was taken, or you might not get that. It just depends on the operating system. It depends on how frequently the device is updated. Almost the most important thing is how the lag time between when did the event happen and when did we perform the extraction.
I think you tried to explain to me this on one of our cases where there was a photo that just what all the information that was in it. It was where it was taken, what device it was taken with, when it was uploaded. How do you get, like if I just pull a phone off my iPhone, how can you tell other than just this was taken on an iPhone? What all data is there?
That's what that whole category of different kinds of data is referred to as the metadata around a file. That's all the data that's associated with that photo, and that can be all kinds of things. And it can include GPS locations, it can include the time that that file was edited or created, the original time that it was taken. And exactly how much metadata is stored can vary from file to file, from phone to phone, from person to person. And it just depends on what tools we have available as a forensic examiner will change how good that information is.
I just want to be clear. Photo has GPS data. Like, clarify that. A photo, like, I take a photo and my
Absolutely.
phone... Okay.
Absolutely. In fact, most phones now will by default be recording the GPS location where that photo was taken on a modern smartphone.
So you could actually take a photo of a person sitting in a chair against a wall. How accurate is that? How accurate would it be to say, I mean, assuming your phone is on and...
Location data is very complicated, but GPS data is very accurate. So if we have real GPS data coordinates, very often, now this can range, and forensic software will often give you some ranges for how accurate, so it might say accurate to an estimated so many meters, dozen meters, but often GPS data is accurate to within just a few meters. So you might not only be saying this picture was taken at a restaurant, you might be able to pinpoint what table it was likely taken at.
How admissible is that in court? Like, how well does that evidence stand up in front of a judge or a jury?
Well, I'm not going to have an opinion on what's admissible in court.
All right, fair enough.
I'm just here to tell you what the artifacts say and when they were taken and what those device artifacts are like, and then what's admissible is a question for the court to decide on any given piece of evidence.
Fair enough. Well, I appreciate you being willing to talk to me for a bit. Thank you for your time.